The lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Johnson, I'm going to pick up where Representative Wu left off. I mean, my concern is I'm sort of listening to a policy that's more like a because I said so policy. And I look at your amendment and it's, well, it doesn't have to be that way. Here's a very complicated path to treat, a very narrow population with severe gender dysphoria. And I'm just curious from your perspective, I mean, it's a pretty high bar.
It's the
highest. There any, go ahead.
It's the highest. I mean, literally, think about it. What if I told you before you could take your kid to get a medical procedure that you had to go through 2 other doctors, 2 other mental health professionals, and a state agency? Nobody would reasonably sign up for that. And that's what I mean by this. The families that are saying we will do this, it is because they know they are going to have to rip their families apart. Either mom goes with one kid to one state and the other parent stays with the other kid so they can stay in high school, elementary school, or keep running their business. That is the dilemma that these families are facing. They are facing elimination from this state. And my worry is that this entire motivation is not based on good policy, but it's based on good politics.
And I'm also concerned, I mean, we've obviously, the complications of meeting this threshold, I mean, while it's been characterized as a lesser alternative, it's still pretty hard when it comes to folks of limited means, economic means, folks that don't have reliable transportation, folks that may work between 9 and 5. It's hard for me as a working dad to make it to one doctor appointment for a well check. It seems to be really hard for me to have to do this 5 times. And was there any discussion about that, hey, that's a real consideration, Representative Johnson, we should be sensitive to that?
This lapel pin is actually an earring. And it's an earring that was made by a child who repeatedly comes to Austin to testify against this legislation session after session. These families have already been put through hell. They come at 24-hour notice for a public hearing, and they wait in line for a day just for the chance that they might be heard, and oftentimes they are not. They go everywhere to try to fight for the right for their kids to exist. They will do this. It is wrong for us to ask them to do it, but they will do it. And this is the compromise. This is the unbelievable compromise between the 2 groups that fill this gallery, to recognize that we're trying to hear both and we're trying not to eliminate one.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the most overused response on that microphone sometimes is, this is the stakeholders' proposal. This is the solution by the stakeholders. This has been vetted by the stakeholders. You're telling me that stakeholders have come together, not in an easy way, but they came together and said, this is something that could work, and it was just rejected outright?
This has been very fair conversations with my colleagues. This is through a course of honest dialogue with my colleagues on the other aisle to hear and address the concerns that you are worried about from your constituents, so that you can tell them you heard them and you acted in such a way that equally respects my constituents and those who are coming to me. It is, at best, our attempt to reach common ground and to find a way to have people to coexist, because I see this room, and I bet there are a lot of folks that have never talked to each other. And our job is to try to be the ones that can find the common ground.
The lady's time was expired. Ms. Johnson of Harrison's on an amendment. The amendment is not acceptable to the author. It's a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Dr. Oliverson voting nay. Show Ms. Click voting nay. Members, you will have time to vote from your desks. Have all voted? There being 58 ayes, 81 nays, the amendment fails to adopt. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.